Pretty much it concluded the FCC, the ruling against the FCC concluded that there's no regulatory agency to enforce net neutrality rules against broadband providers selectively throttling network traffic. So with no one to prevent ISPs from blocking you from content applications and services of your choice, it's pretty important. I guess people don't go along with this settlement. But pretty much the guy that's asking for this, I guess, is the one who originally discovered. His name's Topolsky, and he says that by secretly blocking traffic and hoping that you wouldn't notice, Comcast took back some of the service that you paid for, dropping some of your traffic to make room for its very profitable new phone service to millions of new customers. When you can just get Vonage or something and not even use there. So I'd say everybody should instinctually not use ISP-provided phone services and other things just in spite of that fact.
From Columbia Business School, Powerful Lies is an interesting article discussing a study that was done about lying and about people who feel they have power and people who don't feel they have power and the different effects that lying has on both of them. They say the effects of feeling powerful are precisely the inverse of those that most people experience when they lie. Having power essentially buffered the powerful liars from feeling the bad effects of lying. So in the experiment they had different sets. They had people who were made to feel powerful and in control and other people who were made not to feel in control. They would, have different businesses set up and other types of thing, and people would enter an office. Someone would have a cubicle, another person would have a huge office with a window and everything and a desk, and they would each be told to lie about something. And the people who felt they had more power because of where their position was in society could more easily lie without having any type of thing show up on a lie detector. So it brings a pretty frightening prospect where people with more power, the more power you have, the easier it is to lie.
Yeah.
It
seems like it stems almost from the inequality.
And really makes you wonder about the people in power in our society and how much they tell the truth about things.
Indeed. Next up, we have from Wired.com, spam a judge, go to jail. Kevin Trudeau, radio host, and he also has a bunch of books. He was in a lawsuit about his claims that the treatment and the diets are described as easy. He had a ruling against him for $37 million, and he appealed it. And apparently, during his litigation, he was given 30 days contempt because he asked for supporters to mail the judge. And I don't see how this is at all rational, but apparently the judge's BlackBerry crashed, oh my god. And so anyways, he got 30 days contempt for asking for support.
From the Associated Press, military asserts right to return cyber attacks. The director of the National Security Agency, Lieutenant General Keith Alexander, said that it is reasonable to assume that returning fire in cyberspace, as long as it is complied with law of war principles, would be lawful. And so essentially they're talking about cyber attacks coming mostly from overseas. They've had some instances with China and different issues going on, so we'll be watching that as it develops.
Yeah, another thing's interesting in our feature documentary, they talk about China's desire to take control of space and make an influence and stuff, and if they aren't able to actually get out in space because we're dominating and controlling most of it, then cyber attacks would be probably another way. So we could see like an inherent interest to argue that we need to control our internet, whether it's for copyrights or some kind of security for this planetary security construct. Next, from the New York Times, federal judge finds NSA wiretaps were illegal. I think this is the second ruling that's been had against the federal government, and this is despite Obama's effort to keep shrouded in secrecy his continued policies of Bush. Pretty much, the government has been is going to be forced to pay damages to Al Hariman, a now defunct Islamic charity in Oregon, and two lawyers that are representing it in 2004. Declaring that the plaintiffs have been subjected to unlawful surveillance. And so they're supposed to get, I guess, $20,000, $200 each, and then punitive damages of up to 10 times legal fees over 5 years in addition to that. And pretty much this shows unfettered executive branch discretion, it says, that had obvious potential for governmental abuse and overreaching. And previously in 2006, similar ruling was overturned for lack of proof, but it didn't rule that it was illegal, but there wasn't any proof.
Next article is from Wired.com. Law enforcement appliance subverts SSL. SSL encryption is what they're talking about. A small company was marketing internet spying boxes to the feds at a recent wiretapping convention. The boxes were designed to intercept those communications without breaking the encryption by using forged security certificates instead of the real ones that websites use to verify secure connections. Intelligence Support Systems Conference, a Washington, D.C. wiretapping convention that typically bans the press, has had some interesting things going on there, obviously selling stuff like this so that people can invade your privacy and the government can invade your privacy. And they've actually, one of the incidences that came out from this convention is a Sprint manager was caught bragging about the huge volumes of surveillance requests it processes for the government. So you have all
Oh
these,
yes, we do the bidding very well, and they enjoy us.
Yeah, we have all of these minions out in these companies working for.
Proud of it.
Look at how many process requests we do for the government. Ha ha ha.
Hail Satan.
And they're just basically
Reveling
control freak people, and they're reveling in their power and everything like that. Well-known human psychology, which is why it's used against them by this power elite.
Yeah. Considering that, we have next from Gizmodo.com. Crime prediction software is here, and it's a very bad idea. It's about Florida's Department of Juvenile Justice, supposedly, they call it justice, is pretty much like some eugenic policies going on, looking to be just like the movie Minority Report. They're going to try and predict which kids are the biggest risk. And pretty much the 5th and 6th and 14th Amendments, the article points out, are pretty much being violated by this whole concept they're trying to push. And also Article 11 of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, Article 11. And this goes back to pretty much IBM and the Nazis during the Third Reich. The system entrance pretty much promotes return already in our prison system and whatnot. So, I mean, for them to they already want return customers, basically. We got prison, military, industrial complex, these whole constructs going. And so, I mean, one false positive, the article points out, makes the whole system unfair. And pretty much, as we said just a moment ago, IBM and the Nazis, it didn't end well for 12 million people when they start trying to do this cataloging and keeping track of people and whatnot. So, pretty scary stuff down there in Florida. People down there should not tolerate such a thing.
Definitely. From CNET News, illegal spying via the cell phone system. 2 researchers said they have found a way to exploit weaknesses in the mobile telecom system to legally spy on people by figuring out the private cell phone number of anyone they want, tracking their whereabouts, and listening to their voicemail. It's pretty in-depth whole thing, but basically the guy says, I can watch a phone number travel to different mobile switching centers. If I know your phone number, I can track your whereabouts globally. And if you want to, you can go read the article and read how they actually do it technically.
That's a legal way. We already had an article on here. There's a court ruling that basically said that if you have any reasonable expectation of privacy, you have to turn your phone off. And the only way to do that is take the battery out. And some of the things, like the new iPhones and stuff, you can't even take the battery out. So the Panopticon is definitely here, and even an ordinary person can use it, not just the military-industrial complex and the elite. Next up, more on the spy business going on. We have the New York Times saying, keeping a closer eye on employee social networking is the name of the story. $2 to $8 apparently a person you can pay to watch your employees for confidential or embarrassing info, such as there was recently, I guess, a lady that was fired for complaining about customers or something on her Facebook. So, I mean, this is the kind of thing you're going to see with this software called Social Sentry. So, yeah, we pretty much are in the Panopticon, it's spreading, and this is the kind of thing that's going on. But hopefully we'll have something like Diaspora is going to be apparently one kind of social networking tool where you control your information. These companies won't be able to monitor you.
From the State House Bureau, in New Jersey Supreme Court upholds privacy of personal emails accessed at work. The precedent-setting ruling upheld the sanctity of attorney-client privilege in electronic communications. This is a case going on between a lady and her workplace, a health institution. The attorney said the ruling sets a new boundary for employers who believe they may have a right to all the emails simply because they own the computer. And this, of course, has been in probably major contention between different companies, that they own the computers, and so they have all of the information on the hard drive, and then can later use that information against their employees if they need to. And this court case has come out against that, saying that privacy is trumps essentially the employer's right to that information.
That reminds me too of wasn't it the Cash for Clunkers program, the website, when they went on it, your computer becomes property
of the government.
It's insane.
Yeah, that was ridiculous.
Well, next up on some more privacy stuff, CNET News, CNET.com. Amazon fights demand for customer records. North Carolina's tax collection department is trying to collect the names and addresses and what people purchased from Amazon. So that's pretty good that Amazon's trying to fight it, or at least on the surface.
And from the New York Times, how lenders overlook the warning signs of ID theft, talking about lenders essentially contributing to ID theft, saying that lenders are too willing to extend credit to just about anybody, even when there are big red flags that indicate fraud, such as false names, wrong birth dates, incorrect credit numbers, and incorrect account numbers as well.
Yeah, I guess it's kind of the same way too with the Medicare funds too. They just give them out to like phantom agencies. People make off with all our tax money, hemorrhaging money here and there. Next from Computer World, group calls for antitrust probe into Google search ad practices. Consumer Watchdog is seeking possible breakup of Google, they hope, for their use of pretty much tweaking proprietary search algorithms, which could ensure a business's success or doom it to failure. And it's quite an interesting article. Hope you take a second and check it out online.
Next article is from the Register. Buzz Gmail outs googly ties of Obama's deputy CTO. And this is an interesting story. A U.S. deputy CTO, Andrew McLaughlin, realized that the Tweetbookish Gmail add-on had publicly exposed the people he emails and chats with the most. McLaughlin is officially the country's chief internet brain, the man charged with bringing the so-called Web 2.0 revolution to Barack Obama's federal government. And it's just a funny article because even he had his own privacy invaded on by these systems that exposed his whole email list and everything to the public, essentially.
Sweet irony. Next we have from Micah Z. Kellner, Assembly member in New York. Kellner bill will require state agencies to release their records online. The article or the release describes that freedom of information is meaningless if not online. An independent analysis and innovation with data such as cancer or unemployment rate research and study and audits in general of government records could be conducted. And they have a list of some of the websites and examples of things that are shared already, which are kind of like a testament to how good things could be if we had complete disclosure of records through online.
Our last article to finish it up, it's actually a large, almost paper you can go read if you want. It's called Leak First, Fix Later, Uncontrolled and Unmonitored Radioactive Releases from Nuclear Power Plants. This is from beyondnuclear.org. And it looks at the epidemic of reactors which are leaking tritium into groundwater. And it says there's evidence of 15 radioactive leaks from March 2009 through April 16, 2010. And that at least 102 reactor units are now documented to have had recurring radioactive leaks into groundwater from 1963 to 2009. So it's a pretty in-depth report discussing radioactive leaks and the way that nuclear power plants have been operating. So you can go check it out if you're interested.
Moving on to our international news.
Digital photocopiers loaded with secrets. This is coming from CBS News. Nearly every digital copier built since 2002 contains a hard drive. And most people don't realize this when you're copying all these things at work and not even thinking about it. Basically, this investigative team went and bought 4 different copiers from this company that sells used copiers to all over the world. They have warehouses of them. And they opened them up and looked at the hard drives, and they had basically 3 different copiers that were significant. 2 of them were from the police department.